It's your Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, December 30th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is a little tired after last night's game, but it was worth it for that overtime win, finally.
Yes, the first of the season.
All right. Well, we got it in under the wire for 2022. So let's get the show going.
Your Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here, as always, with Russ Cohen, who's on Twitter at Sportsology. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You'll keep up to date on all the Flyers news, our episodes. You can also email the show at lockedonflyers@gmail. We are going to talk about that overtime win versus the Sharks. We've got a Kings game this weekend to preview. We've got more World Juniors updates, and we are going to give our New Year's resolutions for 2023. Locked On Flyers is free and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts. So subscribe. You'll get all of our episodes here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Plus, we're over on YouTube, so subscribe there as well. Russ, getting straight into that game, I was a little worried, I gotta say, in the overtime when he deployed that two defensemen, one forward strategy again.
Luckily, at first it looked like it was going to be a little clunky, and then it sort of kicked in, and it was okay. So I think this was the first time that it looked good.
Yeah.
So that's a positive for that.
Yeah, I think that, it's not something you would expect from most teams, I would say. But, Torch seems to think that his defensemen are the ones that can really lead in this wide open game like that. And to some degree, I understand it. I mean, there's a reason why the Sharks put out Erik Karlsson, right? Because he is that kind of player. So why not have two guys like that out there on the ice?
No, it's fine. It did work out, and that did fully. That was the full end point of the comeback. But we got to remember, it's the Sharks, and they were behind a lot of this game. So there's good and bad in this one.
Yeah, there really is. I think from both teams, it was kind of a mess, especially defensively early on in the game. So many missed passes, giveaways, losing the puck on a simple play. I think both teams were kind of suffering from it intermittently throughout this one.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's fair. It was sort of like a loose game for a while, and neither team really was going to run up the score in this one. You could see it. So, yeah, from a Flyers perspective, Errson played fine. I didn't see anything alarming, and I didn't see anything great. I think he was okay. From like a Cam York perspective, there was good and bad. This is a big jump for him, so I got to give him time to see if he can do it. There was a bad penalty, but then he drew a penalty. There was, he's still a minus. He was on the ice for a goal. That's not great. There were times where, he is opening it up offensively and looks pretty good. But in the end, if he's going to do that, it has to equal points. And so we'll see if that actually equals points down the road. Style points is one thing. And I know everybody wants to show videos with guys getting style points, but at some point, it has to show up on the score sheet. And surprisingly, with all the offensive freedom, he only had one shot that got through.
Yeah, it was, I think, a good effort for the first time around doing this kind of play and being on that top pairing for a good portion of the game. Definitely needs work, like you said, but I think it's a step in the right direction if this is the role they want him to play. Still, we got to talk about if it's the right role for him moving forward. I think we just need more time to evaluate that. But I think, for a first outing at doing stuff like this, that's all right.
Yeah. I'll definitely say it's all right, and we'll leave it at that. What I don't understand is, how Nick Seeler is second in shots.
Right.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I think there was first off, the Sharks had 16 blocked shots, so I think that had something to do with it. And they doubled up on the Flyers in block shots in this game. So that definitely was a factor in terms of shots getting through or not for the Flyers. But ultimately, the stat is what it is. And Nick Taylor, you are correct, should not be second in shots on the team for a game. But, I do want to give credit to Tony DeAngelo right now, because obviously he got the game winner in overtime, and it was a really great play.
It was.
I was very impressed. 7 points in the last 3 games. He's got 3 goals and 4 assists. I think that we're getting closer to what we expected out of him offensively.
Yeah, I think he's almost there as far as that goes. So I think that's very fair to say. And based on that, I mean, we'll see if he can kind of keep that going. And, this time it helped engineer a win. So, even better. An overtime win, which is elusive. Now they're 1-7.
Yeah.
1-6. Sorry.
Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 teams in the league right now who have 7 overtime or shootout wins this season, and the Flyers are just getting there first and have lost 7 of them. So maybe it's padding the stats of other teams, but at least we're getting the post holiday break off to a good start on that front. And like I said in the opener, getting it in under the wire for 2022. Before we start.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. Like you said that, and I was like, you want to go into the new year at least feeling halfway decent, and that is something that no matter what is going to be a positive of this trip. Even if the rest of the trip is lousy, at least, they'll have that.
Exactly. I also want to talk about Travis Konecny, who had yet another good game, 4th multi-point game in a row for him. And he's really taken over this team in a lot of ways and been the example out there. And I think he's, he can be a little bit more selfish, I think, sometimes. I think that, occasionally he'll make the pass when I think he should have taken the shot. But I think that overall he is really saying, no, we've got to get down the ice fast and make something of it every time we're out there.
Yeah, he's directing a bit more, and I like it. We're seeing that fire out of him again. So no, he's having a great year. There's no taking it away from him. He is one of the bright spots of this year.
Yeah, I'm really impressed by what he's been able to do. And, I do wonder if at some point Tortorella is going to say, maybe I'm going to put an A on his sweater.
I don't even want to talk about it. Like, the whole thing is nonsensical. It's like, of course there should be A's right now. Like, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah, I just think in terms of the requirements that John Tortorella has set in terms of leadership on this team, he meets the criteria for that.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
In terms of special teams, obviously there was just the one power play, so it's hard to make any overall judgments. They did get some shots on goal, but no high danger chances in that period, which, you want to see a little bit better from the power play. But again, just one opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be better if they would have hit it than miss. The power play is still what the power play is, and the penalty kill still gave up a power play goal, so it's not like the shortened razor sticks did anything. I mean, one for 3 is not exactly stellar. That's above league average. So right. I can't say that we're seeing an improvement there either.
Right. The penalty kill looked good until it wasn't.
Right. That's exactly right.
In that particular penalty kill where the Sharks scored, it was looking really, really strong. They made some really quality plays, and then that amazing goal. I mean, that goal was almost unstoppable, but at the same time, to prevent him being in that position to be able to
That's
score.
That's the key of it.
Yeah, is what the problem was there. And so, hopefully we can see some more improvement on that front as well. But overall, I'm pleased with, again, Tony DeAngelo playing well.
There's one little thing I'm worried about, and not from a player standpoint, from the coach. Like, I thought Joel Farabee was fine that game. He did a lot of good things, but he had that penalty at the end, and you saw the coach react. And I kind of hope he's not really going to hold this against him, even though, look, that was one time where the penalty kill worked and it helped, the comeback started happening. But again, I hope he doesn't hold that against him, because, again, he's having enough trouble this year, Farabee.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, well, we are up against the LA Kings coming up next. We will talk about how the Flyers can maybe get a win streak out of this.
And now an important message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks, and a few becomes too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. You lose your job. You total your car. You kill someone. Everyone knows the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Russ, the LA Kings are the Flyers' next opponent, and they've been having, I think, a good season, but not, I think, a great season in terms of taking a step forward from last year, which was maybe, they took more steps forward last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, you're looking at a team that has had some really good results, but also have struggled at times over the season. And at the same time, they're in a division where there's an opportunity to be high up in the standings, and they are. But I think this should be an interesting game, just because, traditionally the Kings have played a pretty good shutdown system where it's a low scoring game no matter what you do.
Right. One thing you have to look out for with the Kings, though, is even though they're middle of the pack power play, like 23%, they're dangerous. Like, once you get 23, the Leafs are 24. They've got guys that could hurt you on the power play. So this is a situation where, again, we're going to say, don't test out the new penalty kill. Don't have the penalties if you could help it. Another thing that's going to be a key point of matchup is they have some size. Even though some of their guys aren't playing full minutes, like Byfield's not playing full minutes, you still have Adrian Kempe, Gabe Velarde. These are big, strong guys. And now you're going to, ask Cam York on a top pairing to start handling the big beef on those teams. And Provorov's going to need help. It's not going to be enough because they're going to have Drew Doughty out there, and he is hard to deal with on any given night. So this is going to be a big test for the new defense.
Yeah, I think so as well. You mentioned Quinton Byfield. He just got called back up from Ontario in the AHL, and he had only had 3 assists in 8 games for the Kings earlier in the season, got sent down, and in 16 games in the AHL he had 15 points. and was the top goal scorer for Ontario. So I think the call up was pretty well deserved, but he's still only getting those limited minutes for the Kings. Do you think he'll move up in the lineup?
I don't think so. Right now, like Kopitar last game was at 63% in faceoffs, and Deneau is at 54%. So I think he's going to be right there, 3 or 4C. But the issue is, listen to those faceoff percentages. That's another issue.
Yeah.
In this game, like those are two of the best faceoff guys in the league. So again, this is an area where the Flyers are going to have to really figure it out, and it's going to be a tough call for Noah Cates, who I feel like has gotten lost in the offense lately. Maybe this is a way he could stand out if he could stand up to at least Deneau. Another guy you got to watch out for in this game is Alex Iafallo, just because he's slippery. Fiala is very talented, as you know. Arvidsson's fast. Like, this team has the ability to score more than they have been. So you can't go in there saying, well, they're not scoring that much. So there's a lot of guys you got to cover, and they have good penalty killers. Like, it's just, you got to watch out. You do.
Yeah. That top line with Kopitar and Fiala, those are your top two scorers on the team so far. And so it's going to be a tough one. And, that second line, like you said, is no joke either, with Deneau centering, obviously having those strong face-off skills, and Iafallo's on that line with Arvidsson. And I just think that top six is really going to be tough. I think the Flyers top six can match up with that at times, but for a sustained 60 minutes, I think is going to be a really difficult thing. But, on the other hand, you look at the Kings last game against the Avs, they gave up 4 goals to the Avalanche in the second period alone of that game. Now they
have lapses. There's no doubt.
They do. They really do. And the Flyers are going to have to take advantage of those lapses and play really hard, and make offensive pushes and stay out of the box. When the Kings aren't playing well, you cannot allow momentum to shift, because, as the Avalanche found out, they scored 2 goals of their own in the third period and wound up winning in the shootout.
Yeah. I mean, this would be a good game for the real Kevin Hayes to kind of show up, because, in his last 5, he's got 1 assist. That's it. And this was a guy that was on fire for part of this season. And he's not banged up. Obviously, there's still something going on with him. Now, he played a little better, marginally better yesterday, but he's still now in this mode of pass first, and he's not going to shoot much. He did get a couple shots on goal yesterday, but this is a game where he, as one of the bigger players, could really help here.
Yeah, I think so as well. And especially if they keep that line together with Scott Laughton and Wade Allison. I know they shuffled the lines in the third period to help that comeback. So I don't know if we're going to see the shuffled lines again, or we're going to see the original lines. But I do think that that third line is going to have to just step it up a notch a little bit. And I saw, Wade Allison got a little bit wrecked in that game against the Sharks. He was getting tossed around and knocked down a lot.
I worry about that.
Yeah, I do too. So I think if there's a way for Laughton and Hayes to shoulder the burden on that line a little bit, I think that would be good, especially against the Kings, like you're saying.
Yeah, one thing I'm noticing, and I'm starting to notice it in games, is that physicality seems to be on the rise. Now that we're getting to the halfway point in the season, I'm noticing a lot more guys getting rocked in games. So you really do have to watch out, and you really do have to protect your teammates in these upcoming games now.
Yeah, but just not to the detriment of the team.
No. I just mean, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, not to get crazy about it, but now I'm just watching games where there's just so many big hits, not just little things, but when you're talking about getting rocked, there's a lot of big hits now.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to touch on World Juniors before we get to our New Year's resolutions. And we had our 2 guys in the tournament play up against each other. USA won over Switzerland 5-1 in that game. And I felt like they could have played a stronger game. That loss to Slovakia was brutal.
Oh yeah,
that Team USA had, and they
but
really
Slovakia has some talent, though. We can't deny that.
Yeah, they did, but USA just did not play well in
No,
that game and
no.
didn't react well and adjust to what Slovakia was doing. And
Yeah.
so it was really important for Team USA to have a good game against Switzerland, who had been playing well themselves in the tournament, and had
Yes.
been 2-0 up into that point. And, I think they did mostly okay. I think they could have been more dominant, but I think that top line continues to impress with Cutter Gauthier, and he had 2 assists in that game.
Yeah, the only thing is he's frustrated that he can't score, and you can see it. Now, the good thing is that, Tyler Boucher is around to get some of these rebounds. So that's been a big help. But if that hasn't happened, Gauthier is a little struggling on the goal scoring front. So the one thing I noticed, and this is where I'm going to default back to what we talked about before the season began, when he is going in the crease, he's losing the battles in front of the net. And he is a bigger guy. So everybody wants to say, well, he's a bigger guy. He's a man. He can play in the NHL. This is why I want him to have another year at college, because I don't believe in the next 3 months, all of a sudden he's going to get strength to the point where now he could deal with the NHL and the rigors of it. Because once he's in the offensive zone as a bigger man, he's going to be a target. He's, they're not just going to let Cutter Gauthier shoot everything he wants to shoot. And if he's going to want to score more, he is going to have to get in the crease. But as far as this tournament goes, he has been great for assists, but really he does need to score a little bit. If they're gonna win gold, he is going to have to score. Like Snuggerud's been covering for them well, because he happens to be a guy that is unafraid to shoot and shoot from a million different spots, and it's working. And that's been a big thing for them. And Logan Cooley is Logan Cooley. Like Logan Cooley, if anybody ever had any doubts about Logan Cooley, you certainly don't now. And still, again, if you're going to tell me, I'm going to just keep defaulting back to the Devils, saying that if Simon Nemec, who has played well, was truly the best player on the board, I'd like to know, because Jiricek's been he was great the last game, and Cooley's been off the charts. So is he really better than those two? This is where you got to, do one of those.
Yeah, just getting back to Cutter Gauthier,
yes.
I think your point is a good one, because I've noticed he's really, really good coming through the neutral zone. Like he'll be the good puck carrier and scream down the ice with the puck, and then he dishes it off, and then when it comes back to him, that's where he's having trouble generating the shot. So he's a huge part of the rush, but he's not part of the finish.
Right, and they could be getting some more points, and they probably will need it as they get on. So hopefully, he'll get hot at some point. But he's playing well. I can't bag his performance. And Zanetti, I thought Zanetti was fine. Like his zone entries look good. Again, when you're talking about a team that's really overmatched, and you're a top pairing D-man for them, I thought he did as well as he could do. He's certainly playing up in weight. We know that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought that because of the competition, it wasn't his best game of the tournament.
Right.
But it was a solid game for him, all things considered.
He was noticeable.
He's having a really good tournament.
He is. I think this is going to be a nice springboard for him. And again, I wish he were on a better team, but there is the positive that since he's not, and he's on an okay team, he gets a lot of ice time and a lot of responsibility.
Exactly. All right, we are going to get to our hockey New Year's resolutions coming up next. Russ, we were talking offline before recording, and neither one of us are huge New Year's resolution kind of people in terms of our personal life. But in terms of hockey, I think there are some good resolutions to be had out there. And I think for me, I want to start with continuing this goaltending trend that I'm paying attention to goaltending in World Juniors. And, I'm very intrigued by Trey Augustine's play for US and whether or not he sticks in terms of the rest.
I know. I can't tell you I'm 100% confident.
I don't know.
Might be a liar.
Yeah, I don't know either. But
and Berico has a lot more ability, but he's not the safe guy.
Right. Exactly. But I think that that's kind of a springboard for me to pay more attention to goaltending in general, in terms of training technique and digging into really how goaltenders are developed in
Mm-hmm.
a way that I haven't before. I mean, I understand the position, obviously, and I understand what makes a good NHL goaltender, but how do they get there? I think
Mm-hmm.
is a really good question that, we focus a lot on skaters, but knowing the details of that process, I think will be a good New Year's resolution for me.
That could be a lifelong journey. Just saying. You may have bit off a lot there. We'll see. But I like the idea because it is something that um, I try and put more emphasis than I have the year before. And it's a hard position to figure out. As far as goalies, though, I am really done with goaltender interference. I don't want to tweet about it anymore. I don't want to talk about it on the show anymore. The line is so blurred now that I have no idea what it is, and I just wish it would go away. Like, not to say I want goalies to get killed, but I wish it would go away because the rules were tightened up, but they're not. So that's
No,
one.
I don't know. I think that they're obviously going to revisit it again in this offseason like they do every offseason. But
Yeah. So
um
that's one thing. The other thing that's kind of irking me a bit lately is, and we've seen a lot of this over in the NFL. Now all of a sudden, and it's happening in the World Juniors. Like, all of a sudden, refs are like, hey, although they want to be entertaining. Talking about the face-offs in the World Juniors because they had a problem the game before. One of the refs said something. Now when they're showing their penalties, I think they're more exaggerated in their arm movements. Like, listen, guys. You're not the star. Just because your mic gets open for 30 seconds, just do your job. Keep your head down. Nobody cares about anything other than you calling a good game, which we appreciate, but we don't need star referees. We don't. We saw that in like the 80s, and I for one, was never a fan of that because I just don't think the ref should ever take away from the spotlight of what's going on the ice. And I sort of see this happening again now because they're getting so much TV time.
There's pros and cons to it, that's for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And, I think that there's certain guys out there that make it part of their thing that they
Yeah.
do. And, maybe they think it'll get them some of the more high profile games. They'll get the Stanley Cup final.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. I think my other New Year's resolution, and this is gonna be a hard one to stick to, but I
Uh-oh.
want to eliminate from my vocabulary. They're 2 years away from being 2 years away.
Okay. I'm for that.
I think that it's become a burden at this point. And I just want to take it, one step at a time. And I think the Flyers are in a really precarious.
So you're going to trade one cliche for another? Is that?
Well, in terms of my approach to the Flyers, I'm not going to use that phrase repeatedly. But in terms of the Flyers being at a precarious point, we're not sure what the future is for the current management and, what the future could hold in terms of that. And so I feel like that phrase has run its course and we need to move on. We need to approach this from a different perspective. So that is my other New Year's resolution.
I love it. Yeah, let's get rid of it.
All right. Wrapping up with our Flyers fun thing. We didn't really talk about Owen Tippett that much.
Well, we knew he was going to get talked about, though. We knew.
Yes. But I think that he really put forth a strong effort in that game against the Sharks. He was always noticeable, always trying to make a play happen.
Yes.
And so I want to highlight his goal in that game because that really did spark that comeback.
It did. It was a nice goal. It was fiery.
Yeah.
No, it was really well played.
And he had a lot of really good energy after the goal and was like, come on, guys, we can do this. And I appreciate that. So Owen Tippett's goal is our fun thing of the day. That'll do it for today, but we'll be back on Monday. As always, we'll have our recap against the Kings. We've got another Flyers After Dark game against the Ducks to talk about. and we will have our nemesis of the week. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you, so send in your mailbag questions via Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail.com or comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen today. Now make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Peter Bukowski brings you the biggest stories from around the sports world in 20 minutes. Get the analysis and opinions before anyone else with our local and national experts and insiders. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Have a great weekend, everyone.
See you next year.